The real serious spiritual and religious systems of the planet do not deny human suffering. Not only that, suffering is at the core teaching of it all. As a matter of fact, there is no spiritual or religious system in this world that actually gives any of us a pass on addressing the suffering of other sentient beings. When Buddha was born, he was Prince Siddhartha, and his father was told by an astrologer that his son would grow up to be a very, very powerful person, and that he would be either a great warrior king like his father or a great holy man, one or the other. Well, Siddhartha's father was a warrior king, and the last thing he wanted was to think that his son would become a holy man. So he devised a plan. He built walls around his castle compound, and he decided for the entirety of Siddhartha's life, he would be surrounded by such beauty and such culture and such pleasure and such sexuality and everything that could possibly bring him happiness that he would never want to look across the wall. Because he knew that as long as he stayed happy inside the castle compound, he would not become a holy man. Are you with me? That he would not. But it was when one night he felt a disturbance in his heart, and Siddhartha escaped. He climbed over the walls, and he saw death and suffering and age and disease for the first time. He came back to the castle compound, and it was in the middle of the night. And he saw that all of the dancers that were so beautiful during the day, and all of his teachers who were so wise during the day, and all of the women that he was with during the day, during the middle of the night when they were sleeping, he saw they were aging too, and they were suffering too, and they were diseased too. And he knew that's it. That's when he crossed over the walls permanently and began his path to enlightenment. Now, not only did Buddha not begin his path to enlightenment until he crossed over the walls and saw suffering for the first time, but I also want to remind us nice, privileged, happy Americans, neither did he just stay within the compound and throw stuff over the wall. Let's look at how cells in the body operate. You know, nature leads with love. When a sperm and an egg come together, and then this miraculous process begins. And all of these cell division processes begin to take place. And when a cell arises, it emerges from this invisible field of no thing, and it actualizes, and then it has, through natural intelligence, the guidance to collaborate with other cells. And as it collaborates with other cells, it then forms the brain, and it forms the pancreas, and it forms the heart, and it forms the lungs. In other words, every cell is guided by natural intelligence, not only to become what it is at its highest state of actualization, but part of its highest state of actualization and performance is to collaborate with other cells in service of the organ and the organism of which they are part. That's the natural intelligence of the universe. Not just that you become, but that you collaborate. That you become and then you collaborate, and not only that you collaborate, but that you collaborate to serve something bigger than yourself. Every once in a while, for reasons that scientists to some extent understand, and to some extent do not yet understand, a cell goes insane. A cell disconnects from its natural intelligence. It is though it forgets its highest function is to collaborate and to serve the healthy functioning of the whole. Instead, it goes off to do its own thing. It says, I don't want to just exist to collaborate with other cells to serve the healthy functioning of the lungs. I don't want to just work with other cells to serve the healthy functioning of the pancreas. I want to go off and do my own thing. What is that called? Cancer. That is a malignancy in the body, and it is a malignancy in consciousness, and that is the malignancy that has infected human consciousness. There is a higher spiritual consciousness than manifesting our own dreams. Hitler manifested his own dreams. The idea that somehow the spiritual mountaintop is figuring out what you want and manifesting your own dreams is not the spiritual mountaintop. It's magic, but there's a difference between magic and miracles. Magic is where you basically use God as your errand boy. Ooh, I've decided that through I can use metaphysical principle and I can use it to get what I want. This is not freedom. This has been co-opted to the max. Miracles is not where you use God as your errand boy and you figured out mental and metaphysical principles to get what you want. That's magic. Magic can be white, magic can be black. Magic can be of the light, magic can be of the dark. But often when magic is of the darkness, it poses as of the light. Because darkness knows as long as you're so about yourself, then everything will be okay. The highest spiritual mountaintop is a path of surrender. It is a path of the miraculous. It is a path not where we use spiritual, metaphysical principles to get what we want, but where we make ourselves available to spiritual principle to use us for what it wants. To use us for what it wants. Where we wake up in the morning and we don't figure out what we want. You know, words like intention are great, but it's been so co-opted. Hitler had an intention. There's more than you just having an intention. There is the intention which is the mind of God, the intention which is the mind of love. There's an anti-intellectualism in our tribe. Our tribe, many of our people, on one hand, even about this business being happy, 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 this is my suggestion to you. Being unhappy every once in a while isn't such a bad thing. This idea that we have taken this yellow smiley face and we've smacked it on top of everything. Like happy, 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 I'm happy, I'm happy. Be happy if it's based on truth. Be happy if it's based on the fact we have problems, but we're handling them. Be happy based on the fact that, not that you're not looking, there's a difference between transformation and transcendence and denial. It is incumbent upon us to look deeper. We are the tribe who says we don't just look at symptoms. We are the tribe that says we look at cause. We are the tribe that says we know you can't just address the level of the symptom. You have to address the level of the cause. So what happens when you really give your life to God? Do you think when you give your life to God, God says, okay, well, you can ignore all that stuff? Do you think that that's what God says to us? I don't think that that's what God says to us. That's not what God said to Buddha. Siddhartha had a disturbance in his heart, and he had to climb over those walls. And then let's talk about the next great deliverer. Let's talk about Moses. Moses had escaped. Moses, his mother, had hid him so that no one would know he was a Jewish baby. And he was in fact brought up by an Egyptian princess, the daughter of the Pharaoh, who didn't know he was a Jewish baby. And so he escaped. All the other Jews were slaves. All the other Israelites were slaves under Pharaoh. But Moses was like, hey, I got lucky. I got lucky. Ladies and gentlemen, we all got lucky. So Moses knew that he had gotten lucky, but Moses went out one day, and he was working in the fields, and he saw a slave driver beating a Jew. And even though he had escaped, something in his heart knew, I can't look away. And he actually struck the slave driver, and he killed him. He killed him. And then he went, whoa, I got to get out of town. So he left Egypt, and he is going about his business. He married, he became a shepherd, and one day he saw a burning bush. Now, the burning bush is a fascinating concept, because the burning bush in the Bible did not burn the way a bush would burn. A bush, if you saw a bush out there, it would stop. Either someone would put the fire out, or even if no one put the fire out, if no other bushes were around it, the burning would stop. But on the burning bush, it did not stop burning. That's what we see when we meditate. That's what we see when we pray. That's what we see when we really get deep to spirituality, that we enter the stream of the burning bush, and a voice comes from inside the burning bush. And does the voice say, yippee, we got out of there? Does the voice say, send the Jews their slaves, but send them some clothing? Do what you can. It said, go back and tell Pharaoh to release my people. So spirituality is not just about what God will do for us. Spirituality is about what God expects of us. And what God said to the Israelites through Moses on the Mount Sinai when he came down was, this is what God said to the Israelites metaphorically meaning the children of God, which means all of us. I want you to be a nation of priests. That is what you are called to do when you leave this place. If you're an artist, be a priest as an artist. If you are a scientist, be a priest as a scientist. If you are an educator, be a priest as an educator. If you are a teacher, whatever you do, to be the priestly function. And what is the priestly function? The priestly function is that you make yourself available to that which comes from beyond you, that then is extended through you to be of service to other people. But, once again, Moses didn't not notice the suffering of the people, and Buddha did not notice the suffering of the people, and the suffering of Jesus on the cross is central to the myth. You can't skip the crucifixion and go right to the resurrection. We are living in very sobering times. Like I said, if you're totally happy today, I think you're not looking. We here in our own country are experiencing, as we speak, a full-scale assault on American democracy. We are in the middle of a full-scale assault on American democracy. And it's not just progressives who are saying this. Brave and wise conservatives are saying it as well. This is not something for us to somehow build a little circle around that or build a circle around ourselves to be in a bubble so that we ourselves are not facing it. James Baldwin, there's a great line from James Baldwin, which is, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that is not faced. The higher consciousness community should be the last group that is not facing what's going down in this country. We have allowed ourselves to be infantilized over the last few decades. Not, as I said, we were talking with, not when it comes to romance, not when it comes to drugs, but for whatever reason, we've kept ourselves on the periphery about everything else. We should be the biggest grown-ups in the room. We should be the biggest grown-ups in this room. And so people say, well, where does love come in? Where does love come in? Every time somebody says, where does love come in, they're just talking about love for Donald Trump. We love Donald Trump on an impersonal level, but as Martin Luther King said, I have to love those people. I do not have to like them. And just as in romance, the fact that I love you, that we have a deep, intimate relationship doesn't mean we don't have a good fight every once in a while. We just learn how to fight with honor. In a free society, we don't all have to agree with each other. And so at this point, yeah, you're called upon to love democracy, to love America, to love what we have been given and what it is our responsibility to bequeath to our children.